Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington, and I'm so excited today to be joined remotely by Michelle Wight. She's a makeup artist in the Seattle area, currently down in Arizona with all the fun stuff going on. We're kind of time stamping this in the middle of the Corona pandemic now. School just got canceled for the end of the year yesterday for us. So Michelle, why don't you just introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Michelle Wight, and I'm the owner of Michelle Wight Makeup Artistry. We're an on-site hair and makeup company, really serving mostly Seattle, but we'll go all over. We're a team of 5, and we do on-site hair and makeup for mostly weddings, a lot of weddings.
And what do you feel like is your guys' what's a claim that you guys have, or what do you hold proud about how you kind of do what you do and run your business?
My business has really changed over the past year, which is really exciting. I've really been riding the momentum. I went from working completely by myself in 2018, taking smaller weddings. Usually that looks like bride plus 4. I do hair and makeup, so I was just doing that for a solid year. And then I started getting just a lot more inquiries, a lot more referrals. And I decided, instead of turning away business or, sending clients other companies to reach out to, I decided to grow a team, which is it's very different than just going on site and doing hair and makeup, So now we're a team of 5, and last year, 2019, we had 50 weddings, and we were all over. I think what really sets us apart is experience. I worked at MAC Cosmetics for 10 years, and quite a few of the girls on my team, also gave 5+ years at MAC. So, we've been really trained. I feel like if you can work in retail for any amount of time, you're thrown everything. Every type of walk of life, the age range is huge. You have prom girls who are just being introduced to makeup, all the way to like your grandma's coming in for, a refill of her foundation. So you really get this amazing training that I don't know how you would get if you didn't have that experience. So collectively as a group, we become well prepared.
Yeah, it's funny, because weddings are just like this totally different, I always felt like doing news, I kind of the same, you're throwing a little more curveballs where you get these people that have been, in the corporate world, or like videographers that were in like a studio their whole life. And then now you're like into the weddings, and it really is like, you really have to be ready for anything. And especially when you're hair and makeup and dealing with so many different people and in your face and in small environments and it's just nuts.
Quite literally. We are the first to show up on your wedding day, and I feel like it really sets the tone. Luckily, and this is so funny because I would never really think of it myself, but a lot of my reviews, clients will just refer to that I could basically take on anything, any stressful situation. I just have such a calm presence, and I really think that comes from having 4 kids under 16 and just everything that comes with. I'm just used to it. So, it's really hard to get me frazzled. And yeah, I'm glad that I could bring that into a morning, because you get so many different personalities coming together, moms and your friends and like your closest friends. And then that whole mix, sometimes it's amazing and sometimes it can be a little tense. And so walking on and just being able to be calm and, take everything with a grain of salt, I feel like it's pretty helpful.
Because it's nuts. And I mean, I know that we're, photo and video are the least appreciative and the most demanding when it comes to that, where it's like, hey, could we get like, the maid of honor done now because we need her to be in this photo? Or like, hey, could we really need mom right now? Or like, I remember we had one and we were at like Craven Farm and we were trying to do something with like a bench and the thing, like God bless the makeup artist, like over in the corner, she's got like one person to do, left. We're like, hey, could you just like take all that and move it across the room right now? Like, that'd be really great if you could just totally like everything that you're working on. But yet, you guys have to, it's tough because you do have to deliver and it is just like continuous, like this person wasn't ready when they were supposed to be ready, or this person was late, or they didn't, have their hair washed the right way. And now we got to deal with that. Or, I mean, it's always craziness, right?
I have really learned from last year that preparing a client is so, so important. I feel like it's almost as important as their trial, because it really helps to make sure all of those kinds of things that can go wrong on the wedding morning don't go wrong. So I started blogging and I've written all sorts of blogs tackling those things, timelines, how to prep for your trial, things to share with your bridal party, because you always have, I guess this year I've had some pretty large bridal parties, like over 10, at least a dozen over 10. And you really need to drive that whole situation. Otherwise you get people, I don't want to go first. I didn't want to have my hair and makeup done, but now everyone looks so beautiful. Now I want to have my hair and makeup done. Or I would say, hey, please make sure everyone comes with their hair washed the night before and completely dried, but you have someone who wanted to work out in the morning and then they took a shower and then they want you to get them ready. And it's like, no, that will cause so much stress for the bride. Not really for me, because, I offer what I offer. So if someone sits in my chair and their hair's soaking wet, just kindly remind them, oh, you're pushed back, you need to go blow dry your hair, but that becomes really stressful for a bride. Like, oh my gosh, I told them and they didn't listen. And now, we're going to be behind. So I really prep, probably for a good 3 months. And then we have a great combo with the trial, not just about their hair and makeup, but what expectations are, what it looks like the morning of. I'm a really big stickler to timeline. And sometimes it's been unpopular because I always want to start early. You just never know what the day is going to bring. And I never want to make anyone late. And I never have. I've been doing this for 15 years and I have never made anyone late. Knock on wood. I'm a real stickler when it comes to timeline, and it has always served me and it's always served our clients. And that is another thing that I do see pop up in my reviews, is that we finished early, like 30 minutes to an hour before first look. And clients are so grateful. They just get to take a breather and sit down and enjoy their bridal party and have a mimosa or like have a bite to eat. It's not from my chair rushing out the door to wherever they go. Cause that's a little stressful.
No, it is. And we always, I think we're used to it, and like photo, video, whatever, like kind of, it's not our wedding day, but you do really want them to do have that time. There is nothing worse than like feeling like you're literally watching the seconds go by and it's like, well, the groom or whoever is already standing out there ready for a look, and, we're 20 minutes behind already and we got to go. And, I think that's important. I remember, we actually went to a wedding this last year and my wife was in the bridal party. And it was the same kind of thing, like, hey, we need you there like at 8 in the morning. And she's like, well, I don't want to be the first one to go. Like, I don't want to be. And I was like, no, no, no. Like, you don't get, you got to be with me. We got to be smarter than that. Like, you should know better. Like, you got to go. Someone's got to go first. And they say, oh, yeah, well, that means I get to spend more time with them and that'll be good. I'm like, yeah, because there's always someone that oversleeps or, misses their appointment. So.
Yes. And I do feel bad. Nobody wants to go first, ever. But I always try and be reassuring, you're going to get touched up before we walk out the door. You're going to look just as polished and just as amazing as everyone else. So I try to at least reassure the ones who are first to go.
So how did you kind of get involved in all this? I know you said you had many years working in makeup and retail and stuff, but how did you, where did all this love of makeup and everything come from?
Oh gosh, it's been such a journey. When I was in college, I wanted to be a theater major. I loved theater, and I never did makeup. I never wore makeup. I was like 18 years old. I didn't know a thing about it. But they forced me to take a theater stage makeup class, and I was making myself old one day, and my teacher walked up behind me, and she asked me, do you do makeup? And I said, no. And she just kind of like looked over and she said, well, maybe you should. And I don't know if that was such a turning point. Like, I seriously remember it like it happened yesterday. I just became so confident, like, oh, maybe I can do makeup. I don't know. Like, let's try it. And I literally created a resume out of nothing. I had zero experience. And I walked myself over to a MAC counter and I introduced myself to the manager, and her and I just clicked, and she invited me to come and do a makeup interview, which I did. And they hired me, and I stayed there for 10 years. It was very wild.
Isn't it incredible how, just little, I have a similar, when I was in college with a professor, it's just amazing how these small, just a one-off conversation or whatever, and then it really does kind of like totally change your whole trajectory in life. It's always remarkable how that stuff happens.
Yes, it set me on my course. And I grew up in Los Angeles, and I worked at MAC for 6 years there. And then my parents had moved to Seattle, and I was really ready for something different. I, grew up in Southern California. I wanted to change of scenery. So I literally packed, my mom convinced me after months and months of saying, oh, come try it, come see. And so I literally packed my car up one day and I drove up to Seattle, and I transferred with MAC. I was working at MAC. They offered me a job. And so then I was like, okay, I felt confident enough to drive up. And so I came up, and pretty quickly after that, I was invited to go do makeup for the Seagulls for their calendar and their glamour shots and their photos that go up on the Seagulls website. And that just was kind of another mega boost of confidence. It was so exciting getting to be part of that organization. And I was invited back for 3 years, which just was great. You get to meet so many different people and make all of these amazing connections. And that gave me the boost of confidence to step out of retail, even though it was my comfort zone and, my home for 10 years. And I really wanted to freelance. I really loved being at a location and doing a project and seeing it through, and then going home and kind of making my own schedule and not, having to work those retail hours and holiday. And that's not great when you have a family, So yeah, that's where it kind of bloomed.
And then what was the transition like, into starting your own company? Because obviously that's, even though you were doing, makeup, obviously making that transition is, it's a big step.
Yes, it's huge. So there was a very good friend of mine. She's another makeup artist in Seattle, Kendra Springer. She decided to leave MAC a little bit earlier than I did, and she got into doing weddings, and she was also growing, and she put out a post like, hey, is anyone interested in doing weddings or assisting me with weddings? And I immediately reached out to her and I just said, sign me up. Whatever you're doing, I'll do it. Just tell me when and where and I'll be there. And for a few years, that's what I did. She booked a ton of weddings and, we just worked side by side and it was amazing. And that's kind of how I stepped into the Seattle wedding industry. And then through there, she introduced me to a few other bridal companies who also asked me to assist with them. So I was doing a lot of assisting with, very talented artists, and I was getting a lot of experience. And it really just came down to, okay, I love this. I love the collaboration. I'm so grateful to these strong women who really, brought me onto this platform. But I was really ready after, having my fourth kid to just really create my own schedule, accept my own clients, kind of just run my own show. And I did that. Really, it was probably 90% because I really wanted just to pick my own. And having the 4 kids and juggling that, I needed kind of to just be the master of my schedule and know what's coming in and all of those things. So that's kind of, how it bloomed. And we did that. And now, I have my own team, which is so wild to me. I feel like it's still so new and so exciting and such a different part of business that I didn't even know really that I wanted to branch out like that. I've always been, kind of my own, go on site, do your hair and makeup, go home, only in charge of myself, and that's it. And now, I really get to help artists grow and educate, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, what's the hardest part about kind of managing that team? I know that's always, a lot of people, well, I'm going to, have a bunch of photographers, or even especially nowadays with, all the rescheduling and stuff, I'm going to have all these associates and work. I mean, what's it been like for you, managing that team, and what is, maybe things that were harder or easier than you thought it would be just to have other people with you?
Well, honestly, the scariest thing for me was having someone who is dependable. Because you can not call in sick for a wedding. You cannot no show to a wedding. And I had this crippling fear that if I grew a team, I somehow was going to end up with people who did that. Even though it's like from nowhere. I've never had that happen, but I just had that crippling fear. So I posted on Indeed. I reached out to a few other stylists to see if maybe they knew someone who was interested in this type of work. And I went through over 100 resumes and interviews and makeup interviews. And I just really was very thorough with finding out, even kind of before I asked about skill, I wanted to know why people wanted to work for me or be a part of my team. That was so important to me because it kind of would give me insight to the level of their commitment. So, after a lot of shuffling through that, I found some really solid gals, some really solid stylists.
That sounds better than my Craigslist post like 5 years ago looking for, it worked out, but it was, I had a little less thorough for my first associate. It was a little more casual at the Starbucks, Oh yeah, sounds good. I'll do it. No, but we had, then there was a lot more videos, a lot more, afterward. Let's figure out what's going on. That's funny. Cause with makeup, it is a lot. I mean, obviously it's the skill and being able to do it, but a lot of it is just the personality, right? Because you guys are so in there and, like you said, managing stresses and, expectations and kind of everything else. I mean, it's more than just, do you know what you're doing in terms of putting makeup on?
Exactly. That is almost, and I hate to say this, especially on a public platform like this, but it's almost secondary. The skill is almost secondary. You have got to go in there and give like and I've probably said this out loud. I always want the Nordstrom experience. You walk into Nordstrom and so I just took a trip to New York in October and I went to the grand opening of their Nordstrom in New York City. It's like 7 stories tall and it is grand and amazing. And I just so happened to be there the day that it opened. So we went in and they literally were just so kind and what can I get you and how are you and here's a cocktail and let me show you this. And literally I had to do nothing and I wanted every experience to be like that in every store that I go into, which is just not going to happen. But I know that if I go to Nordstrom, I will get that A+ service. And that's the service that I want to give. So anyone who is on my team, that is the expectation and not like a percentage less. I want a client to know we are there 1000% for them, whatever they need. And then comes the makeup.
No, that's interesting. And yeah, I mean, I think that goes for a lot of stuff. And I do think it's underrated. I mean, I'm in a lot of like, videographer groups and, even right now with, there's a lot of talking about, with clients and all this stuff. And like, it really is. I think it's the actual trade or skill is so secondary to just that experience that you have and the feeling that you have working with whatever, I mean, and that goes for anything, buying a house or buying a car or like, I don't even know if I got the best deal, but I felt good about it. Right. And I felt like I was taken care of. And I think that goes, the whole way through with, getting, reviews and getting like you probably get a lot of your work through, referrals and stuff, with word of mouth. And it's because of that experience you give them that's, like you said, is secondary even to actually like what the makeup looks like, it's how they felt during it.
Yes, that is 100% nails it. And so I really hope that is sort of what sets me apart. And I feel like it is just from, I know a lot of people in the industry, in the wedding industry. It's very small in Seattle, as you know. So I get to hear a lot of feedback and even client feedback, and it is amazing to be a master of your craft, but you also have to do a dance with making someone feel like what they're saying is valid. If they want something changed, it's not personal. It's their face, it's their wedding, it's whatever they have in their mind that they want recreated, and I've done a lot of second trials with gals whoever they picked initially really gave a lot of pushback. Like, oh no, you don't really want that. Or, oh no, that's not going to look right for you. Or, oh no, let me show you what you really need. And I get that. You do want to educate your client on maybe a better choice, but ultimately it's what they want. So that is really what I'm trying to provide.
Well, that's so hard. It's so hard for people to grapple with that, especially, in the more artistic, whatever, florals or video, whatever. It's so hard to take yourself out of that. And with makeup too, I mean, you guys are, it's your art form and it's what you want. And it is hard for some people to realize like, it's not necessarily always what, you want or whatever. It's that balance of making the client, feel comfortable. Cause obviously like, I just couldn't imagine, as a bride or, as someone in the wedding party, feeling uncomfortable and then you got to carry that the whole day. I mean, it really is, you want to make sure that they're feeling great from the get-go so it can carry over.
Absolutely. Yes. I know. Honestly, it's been a real test with all of these reschedulings and all of this COVID stuff going on. We've rescheduled so many clients postponed. And it's just, as a vendor, I've never gone through anything like this. And I don't really have all the answers. But as a bride, you've been planning this for so long. And here you are faced with, do I cancel? Do I postpone? What do I do? I put in all this effort. And so I really just have entered every conversation with just so much, empathy and compassion, because I just feel terrible for these clients. I just want to be as supportive as possible and let them know we're going to move your date. We're going to find a way. We'll make it happen, whatever support you need from us. Because, even yesterday I was on the phone with a wedding planner, and our May 30th bride, she was having a lot of international guests, and that's just that can't happen right now. And so, we were just talking like, what do you do? They have so many questions that we don't even know the answers to. And right now things are really day by day, sometimes minute by minute. And, the best thing that I can do is have an open communication policy. Like, whatever you need, we'll reschedule your trials. If I'm available, I will be there. If I'm not available, someone from my team will be there. If, just like trying to come up with plan A, plan B, plan C. Because, I think everyone right now just wants a little reassurance, because you don't really know, what it's going to look like.
No, and as we're talking, I just had my email ping Lori for planner for my our June 20th. Just emailed me and said, "Hey, so I'm going to have to get there." So Lori, if you're listening to this, I just saw your email. No, because it is, and I mean, if any benefit right now, I do think this is really, like you said, helping that communication. It really is humanizing. I think the vendor client relation, I've said on this podcast before, I do think we have a unique relationship when it comes to our clients. I don't think you're texting your plumber at 10 o'clock at night asking them, the same questions that I'm sure many brides, have asked you the night before their wedding about, oh my gosh, what do I do with this or whatever. And I just think it's further, just opening those lines, like you said, even more. And I think a lot of people that are, empathetic like you, I think they're going to see, success kind of coming through this. And then I think that some people that are a little more, stringent about whatever, it's going to be tough, because it is really an unknown right now. And I do think it's really humanizing that relationship.
Oh, for sure. And honestly, it's so wild, just the timing of everything, because I had just joined WIPA when Seattle created their chapter this year, a few months ago. And it's really great to be able to share with your client, like, yes, I am your hair and makeup vendor. You may have these questions. I don't know the answers to them, but I know some amazing people who probably do know the answers. So it's really great to have this vendor community, this wedding community to, reach out to and also help support your clients. I'm so glad that we have that network.
You should say hi to me at the next event. I'll be there. We film all those. Did you see me at the last one?
Oh, amazing. Wait, were you at the Four Seasons? Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we just kind of wander in the background, but yeah, next time come say hi.
Yes, for sure. I will.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I do think it speaks to just, the longer I do this and building those relationships and Seattle is a really small community, and you see a lot of people, and even like my wife's not in any of this, but hears about the same people and sees the same people, and it really is a good time, I think, to kind of strengthen those bonds and try to educate and figure out what's going on in the future.
Yes, 100%.
So, non-COVID related, something I'm always curious about with different, vendors of vendor types is, what are some things that, you're always educating your clients about, obviously like the showering the morning of whatever, but, like actual, like it could be, planning things, it could be trial stuff, it could be day of stuff. What do you feel like you wish more people knew when it comes to like, makeup, making sure people are licensed and all that stuff? I mean, there's a lot of, what's important for you for people to know?
I think that prepping is essential. So, for example, I send out a 9 to 12 month timeline of things that you should be doing prior to your wedding day. Like, you don't want to go and get a facial a week before your wedding, or get a brow wax 3 days before your wedding. There's better times, and I try to schedule that all out. I think that clients just don't know, because you don't just get married every day. You don't know what is a good time. When should I get my hair done? Or when should I get my hair cut? Or when should I get my color touched up? All of these things that you don't have to really think about in your, day to day. When you're prepping for a wedding, yeah, it does make a difference. You probably want to get your hair done, 5 weeks before your wedding so that you don't have grow out. You probably want to get a few facials leading up to your wedding so that your skin is very hydrated and wears your makeup really flawlessly, and good diet, good exercise. I'm not an expert in any of those things, but I do refer to people who are, and just give clients, just educate them the best way that I can. As far as on the professional side, I do think it's very important, especially from what I'm seeing now. It's important to make sure that you are hiring a legitimate business, someone who is licensed, someone who has people on their team who are licensed hairstylists. It is important. It does make a difference. Mostly in their education, what they know, how they're going to serve you. My mind immediately goes to sanitation, because I worked in retail and I had so much education around sanitation before you are ever putting product on anyone. And that really needs to be brought to your client. You need to give them like the cleanest area, reassure them, you're using separate brushes for every single client, you're sanitizing, you're disinfecting. People who aren't trained, or it's a hobby, or they're kind of just starting out, sometimes they don't bring those types of things to their service. And it's really important to kind of do your homework and wean that out.
No, it's so important. I mean, and we, I say sometimes, in our price point, we sometimes play a little, nicer weddings. And then sometimes it's a little more, you're getting a different mix of vendors, kind of, some days versus the others. And it's always nice when there's people, across the board. It could be the DJ, could be makeup, could be the florist, planner, whatever, that people that have that experience. And like you said, like, none of us are like experts in, like you said, like nutrition or whatever, but what's worked for you and your clients, and what's going to give them the best experience. And it's so nice to just, and I think it's so undervalued sometimes when obviously, everyone's so budget conscious, trying to save money, but, getting, the right people that have the right education around them. And like you said, especially with like the sanitation stuff, which I'm sure was big on your mind even before kind of all this craziness now, and now it's certainly going to be something that's going to be, on people's minds for years and years, is making sure everything is, nice and clean. Yeah, that's crazy.
I know it. And actually that was a really big part of my hiring process. I mean, as it should be, but that was really a top 3 for me. I wanted to see every stylist who came in. I wanted to see what products they used. I wanted to see their sanitation. Is their kit clean? How do they prep a space? All of those things, along with customer service. It is highly important that that is spot on. Like, just to keep yourself safe too. Yourself, your products, your kit, your client, all of it.
Where do you see you kind of trying to move? Obviously, first and foremost, we're all going to try to get through this, but where do you have goals, for growth, and where do you want to see, whether it's self-improvement through, how you guys operate, or, expanding the business, or where do you want to kind of grow things in the next couple of years?
I have actually thought a lot about it, because in our wedding industry, I mean, it might be unpopular to say, but I feel like we age out at a certain point. So, I have, younger bride. I'm 36, but I have brides who are getting married who are 25. And right now that doesn't make a big difference. But maybe when I'm 45, someone who's 25 is, I'm not going to be as relatable, possibly. So I really am thinking ahead on what that looks like. And right now, I think it's going to be continuing to build a really strong team, so that maybe I can take a little bit less weddings. I'll be able to be home a little bit more, because I do have a 1-year-old. So it's like I'm going to have a senior graduating in 2 years, and then I'm going to have a kid who's not even in kindergarten. So I'm going to do it all over again. So I would like some time for that, to not have to, book every Saturday and Sunday. I don't have to, but I just find myself in this season of my life, I just am such a yes person. If I get an inquiry and they're like, I love your work and I would love for you to be my wedding, like, yes, I'll be there just because I can, because I have nothing else going on, but that's ideally. And I would like to work on kind of more project work. I've been lucky enough. I do a lot of branding work with photographers during the weekdays. I've gotten to work with Como, for a few segments. I love that. You go in, you do your project, and then you go home, and it's different than a wedding. And I love it. So hopefully I can step into that a little bit more, especially as my team grows. That's kind of my projection for the next, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, no, it's good to always kind of, try new things, and, especially like right now too, just using the kind of time to kind of self-reflect about, figuring out what you want to do, and, solidifying that brand or getting yourself out there. Do you find you enjoy doing those new segments and stuff like that? That's got to be fun.
It's so fun. It is such a different energy. It's exciting, and it's live. So you're there and you get them ready, and then 2 minutes they're on camera. And so it's very cool. It's a very cool experience.
Talk a little bit about your home life. I know we've mentioned, kids and things, but what's it like? A big full house. How is that? And what do you love, about all that fun stuff?
Oh my gosh. It is never boring in our house. Honestly, none of this would run smoothly if I did not have a husband who was 1000% cheering me on the sidelines or behind the scenes. It is just so crazy shuffling all of our kids, 3 different schools, their activities, and then my business on the side and his work. It's such a dance that we have not mastered, but a lot of patience, a lot of empathy and communication to navigate it. It's not always smooth. It's like a dang circus in our house. I'm just going to be real. But the 2 teenagers, they are very helpful. There's such a big age gap between the 2 sets of kids that, we have a lot of helping hands, which is another, perk, I guess. But yeah, it's very fun. It's fulfilling and rewarding, and I never imagined that I would have 4 kids, but here we are.
And yeah, hopefully maybe you get some of them involved in helping out, behind the scenes if anyone needs any work or whatever. So.
Oh yeah, they are. It's so hilarious because I really do that. I have the big kids. They're always my loaders and unloaders, because I have to carry a lot of stuff when I go to a wedding. And recently I've had my 16-year-old, I'm teaching her how to clean my kit, how to help wash my brushes, because, as you grow, you get a lot more things, and it's a lot of work for one person. So I'm like, hey, come on down. Let me show you how it's done.
Well, that's the thing, and for any industry, when you think it's people, oh, it's just, you're just there whatever hours during the wedding day. I got to get all my stuff together. And for me, when same with you, I got to get home and figure out okay, put everything away and clean all the stuff and make sure it's all. I mean, it's way more than just the time that you're on site. All that stuff you can never bill for or whatever. It's just it's lost time every time.
Yes. Exactly. Absolutely. And I think, unless you share, that's why I actually started blogging, because unless you share those things, unless you share your real life, how is anyone really supposed to know? And not that they have to know, but I feel like, you know, you get a little bit more understanding, or when you are in a different price point, like, we mentioned earlier, there's a little bit more understanding as to why and what comes with that and all of those things.
Yeah, because I mean, people just don't. I mean, it's for any industry, but it is in weddings. It's always the biggest, I think, disconnect of like what things actually cost versus what maybe they do sometimes. And it's just because people aren't in the world and you're not educated. It's like we put like a new deck on our house last year because the one was like rotted or whatever. And like if you would have thought that I knew how much that would have cost when that project started, it's not at all what that ended up being. So.
Oh, yes. I cannot even imagine. I always tell my clients, because sometimes they'll ask me, like, what would you have done differently? Or do you have any advice for me? And my biggest regret for my wedding is not having a videographer.
That's good to hear. Well, that's sad to hear, but that's.
Well, okay, it was my fault because I wasn't educated. I didn't know, I had no idea how much it would cost. And then I had sticker shock when I was told how much it was going to cost. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't need that. And then when I see all of these beautiful videos that come out that I'm tagged in that are just capture the essence of your day, I'm just like, man, I just wish I would have, made the investment, because then I would have had it forever.
Well, I appreciate the plug, although I'm sad that, it's always, that's what I tell people. It's the videography. It's a regret industry. It's a lot of people getting it because someone else told them to, because they regretted not getting it. So, what was your guys' wedding like? Normally, I asked that earlier in the conversation.
Oh, it was, oh gosh, it was just like a fun party. It was in Seattle at Sandpoint Country Club. It was a torrential downpour, thunder and lightning in September. It was great. It was simple.
That's a good venue. I like that venue.
Yeah, we had a gorgeous view. We had a big dance party. I feel like that is what our wedding was, a huge dance party. We walked in dancing. We made everyone dance before happy hour. We made everyone dance after happy hour. It was just like a lot of fun, a lot of energy. It's great.
That's good. Yeah, and I think no one will be complaining about rain on their wedding day for years now, with all this other stuff going on. I think that we won't. There will be no complaints about it being too hot or too cold or the rain.
No.
Or I think we'll just be good. That'll be another benefit.
Definitely.
Well, you've absolutely killed it today. Thank you so much, for taking the time. It's just craziness right now, and especially with kids, and I can't sympathize enough with kind of all the families right now, trying to navigate everything. Is there anything else you wanted to make sure that you mentioned before we let you go, and then we'll talk about kind of your website and social media and stuff like that?
Oh, no, I think we got it all. I thank you so much for having me. I don't know why I was so nervous to come on. This was so fun.
No, I get those emails, and I think you and there's someone else like, well, I'm like, please don't be like, because I just roll in and like do this and hear people have been like freaking out for like a day or two ahead of time. And you're like, no, it's like, roll in the sweatpants and do it. It should be fun. It should be fun and get to know. Well, thank you so much. If people want to learn more about you and your makeup and all the different stuff, your blog, I'm always so happy to see people that blog. I can't stress the importance enough of that as well. Where would you have people check out?
Oh, you can head over to my website, mlwmakeupartistry.com. I just started doing IGTV, doing makeup tutorials, so you can find me on Instagram at mlwmakeupartistry. And yeah. And
thank God for Instagram finally fixing the IGTV thing. I mean, as someone that for years, and it had to be under 10 minutes, and I had to like edit it and then export it and then rotate it so you could upload it, and then people, and like now you can just upload them. And it was like 2 months ago, and that was the biggest highlight of my day, was that they finally made it so you could just like upload the video, and then people could turn their phones and it would adjust dynamically. That was a life-changing thing for me.
Right. Yeah, it's been super. Another thing, I was so scared to do it, like this podcast. I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to record myself. That is so awkward. And nope. Then I did it and I got such great feedback, and people were like, oh, please keep doing more. Teach me all the tips and tricks while I'm sitting home and, need something else to keep me occupied. So I'm like, hey, why not?
No, I think it's great. And especially, vendors, like makeup where, so in the face. I think people want to know who you guys are. And, because you're going to be like, 2 feet away from them all day once all the social distancing goes away. So
literally.
Thank you so much again. If you're like Michelle and you're interested in coming on a future episode of the podcast, you can go to www.bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest. And that's a nice, easy questionnaire that we have set up. And I just hope you guys stay safe and have a good time, hopefully riding out the end of this storm, whatever's coming. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much.